guys. Oh my God, I can't imagine doing that for years. He apparently was doing that, and then I guess he had it redone, and everything's been fine. So that's encouraging. Also, kind of, well, I don't know. I'm sure this guy, my guy, he does it all the time. He's apparently been doing that procedure for over 100 years. He told me
1, 2,
since it was first developed. Oh man. All right, so I don't see anyone else is around here. But anyhow, Frank, I tell you what, Clint, I appreciate your comment, but since Frank's not here, and I'm barely hearing you, I think we'll say 73 for now. Maybe, the signals get stronger. We're not going to be here that long. I'm going to be getting out of here in about 20 minutes anyhow, but there might be a couple other guys showing up. All right, well, hey, thanks for chiming in. I appreciate all that information there, Clint. Let me just turn it back to you for a final from you, and then you can pass it back to me, or give it over to Frank, but I'll have to turn it over to Frank because he can't hear you. A1ZO, AJ1G.
K1GMM.
Oh, I looked that up, and that guy's in Maryland, so see if you can get his real call.
Testing 1 2 test. Audio 1 2 Sierra 1 2 check. Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2 audio 1 2 check.
Yeah, Frank, he said AA1ZO, so I don't know. Maybe did you enter that correctly in QRZ?
Well, I get somebody but some sort of Muslim name in Maryland. Is it Juliet Oscar or George Oscar, Chris? Ask him that because he's very bassy and muffly. Over.
Yeah, I thought he said Zulu Oscar. Well, I guess Rand, play the alphabet game there on the call and flip it around and see what you get. But he said his name is Clinton, and he certainly doesn't sound it. He sounds like a New Hampshire. So, I don't know, not a Hashemite.
Okay, I got him as James Bills. I guess he's one of those guys that goes by his middle name if it's Zulu Oscar, so that's okay. Just maybe get a little bit more trouble there, Chris. All right, well, look, I'll let you go. 7-3, enjoy the carrier net, and 7-3 to the other fellow up there in New Hampshire, if you could copy me. So we'll see you all later. W2SDR, Happy New Year.
K1GMM.
So my call sign is Alpha 1, Zulu, Oscar, AA10.
All right, I got you that time, AA10. I got you that time there, Clinton, W2SDR.
Yeah, 7-3, Clinton. Thanks for that info. Yeah, glad to hear that things working. I know a lot of people that have had it. My neighbor just had it, I don't know, last year, I guess. I think his was a little more radical than what I'm getting, I think. Anyhow, yeah, good morning, Steve. K1GMM, as they say in Europe. Microphone over to you. And you got a good signal this morning. AJ1G.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning, Frank. Let's see who else. Chris and Clint. I do hear Clint. And it is AA1 Zulu Oscar. Zulu Oscar. He's over in Milton, New Hampshire, it looks like. So good morning to you. Who was it? Frank, I think you made a comment about the I did check into the carrier net once, and they had a topic running, and I would say maybe 5% of the actual people stayed on topic. And I was like, I didn't realize what I was getting into. I mean, there were like 15-minute overs in there. I was like, what the heck is going on here? So yeah, I'm kind of like Kevin in that sense. I enjoyed listening, but I think it went on about 2 or 3 hours. So I kind of faded off into the woodwork. But good morning anyways. Not bashing anything, but I like to run my trap too much. I guess I'll put it over to Frank. Oh gosh, Frank. W2SDR, K1GMM.
Okay, K1. Okay, what was your call again? I'm getting mixed up here. K1GM what?
Kilo 1 Golf Mike. Golf Mike, over.
Oh, okay. All right, I think we've only worked one time. I got you Steve there about a year ago. Oh, no, not a year ago. Only a couple of weeks ago. I'm still not awake yet. Alan, hold on a second. I got Steve. I'm sorry. Yeah, all right. Let me get my act together here. You got a great signal down there. So, yeah, I feel the same way about the buzzards. I can't, you know, that there are people that talk like that, you know, you have to understand, you know, take into consideration that people really want to hear what you have to say. I mean, you're not talking to yourself. You know what I'm saying? Well, you are talking to yourself. That's the problem. But like you say, you're not sticking on topic or anything. I like nets or round tables. You know, you get 2-3 minute transmissions and then move it. 2-3 minutes and then move it. You know, and it keeps things going. It gets people commenting, so you don't have to sit there and write a book about everybody and comment on everybody. I just don't understand that, but it's not for me, so that's why I don't go on there. And I'm like you, Steve. I want to have a conversation. I don't want to go to a lecture. You know, like if you're sitting around a bar or something, like you don't have one person talk for 15 minutes and then the other person can talk. I'd be asleep or drunk by that time. AJ1G in the group, W2SDR.
Yeah. Well, I can't say I'm not guilty of some of that sometimes, but and you guys say, "Oh man, is he right?" Well, yeah, I know. The carrier, that's kind of a, you know, it's like everyone gets together, and you know, everyone knows everyone's stories pretty much, and usually you're updating on what's going on and all. And yeah, my approach to that is I get in early and get out early, and sometimes I'll listen, sometimes I won't from the rest of the guys, depending on the topic or whatever. You know, it used to be that there was no topic. That's only recently been brought in on the carrier. It used to be just free for all, but everyone just guessed about what happened to them since last week, mostly, you know. And some of it's interesting, some of it isn't, but. And then, you know, the same thing, you know, the gray hair net, that's another one like that. But I like getting in there every once in a while. I don't do that one all that often. I tend to do most of my radio in the morning, not in the evening. Anyhow, let's see, what else is new? Yeah, I found out I can decode RTTY on my 7300 right on the screen. I didn't know you could do that. I never tried it before, but you know, there's a RTTY contest going on this weekend, and I heard all the diddlers up there on 40 meters, and hey, there's a decode function here. Look at that, you know. So I was playing around with that. It's a pretty nice, slick little arrangement. A little mini screen pops up with a couple of target marks for your, you know, you put the mark, you tune in so the mark signals on. There's a little spectrum display, and you know, you line up so your peaks of your mark and space are right on the targets, and away you go. And you got to make sure you don't have too much signal going into it, because it'll try to decode static, and then you just give it gibberish between the words. But yeah, it works pretty cool. And I don't know how you transmit on there yet. You know, I assume to transmit you have to interface to a computer, or maybe you can load pre-coded messages in or something like that. I think you can do that, but haven't really tried that. It was kind of fun to see RTTY to appear on my screen here. I haven't done that. I ran a PK232 with my SB line back in the 80s, and a PC portable IBM computer with you know, it's a little desktop type of thing, a portable thing, and that was a lot of fun. I did Amtor damn with it. I damn near wore out the transmit receive relays in the SB line, chunking away there. But lots of fun. I worked Australia one time, and we even got the power down to like less than a watt a piece into our beams. So we're both running like 3-element beams and maintained a solid link. That was fun. All right, Frank, I think you're going to get out of here, or you're probably pled in boredom, and we'll catch you some other morning. And yeah, Steve, they take a standby here. I think Clint's out of here, and hey, Clint, again, thanks for stopping by with that info. I appreciate it. And see if Kevin or anyone else is showing up. And I got to get out of here to head up to 3835. K1GMM, AJ1G.
All right, just wanted to bump it just in case. Okay, Chris, if you're getting out of here, say 7-3, and maybe catch you tomorrow morning. I may go up there and listen, but that's the way to do it. Let me start my timer here. And something Frank said, man, you freaking cracked me up. Being in the bar, no, that's exactly how I roll. You know, I try to roll, and I do run my yap. I got into a 4-minute over a couple times, I think. What was it, yesterday? I felt pretty bad about it. And Kevin's like, holy crap, don't worry about it. Yesterday or the day before. So I run a timer here. I've always said if you can't say what you need to say in 60 seconds, it ain't worth saying. But that's not AM. AM is, you need to stretch it out a little bit, because it almost feels like sideband. If you get in there and do like a 15-20 second over, that just doesn't feel right, does it? And then you got the opposite end of the extreme. So, and I can be extreme. Not 15 minutes, good Lord. That's why I have a 3-minute, I think it's a 3-minute timeout on the transceiver here. So, geez, there was something else you said, Frank. Well, you know, I just enjoy the back and forth is nice. I do like the topic driven nets if they can stay on topic, because sometimes you get a really interesting topic. You know, there's a lot of things that I have a very high level of interest in, antennas, blah blah blah. You know, whatever, and a lot of times I'm always trying to hear something new. You know, I'm looking for something new, so I'll listen intently, but you know, when they go off, they spend about 10 seconds on the topic, and then they go off topic for 15 minutes. Yeah, well, my brain don't work like that. And Frank, remind me where you're at. I can't remember exactly where you're at. W2SDR, K1GMM.
Yeah, okay, Steven. 7-3 to you, Chris. We'll see you later, and enjoy your net. I'm in southern New Jersey, Salem County, which is in the pretty much extremely south part of New Jersey. It's a very rural section. All farms down this way. I'm about 40 miles west of Atlantic City. And, well, apparently they really like that format because they get a big turnout. And one of the issues I have, there's a lot of weak New England stations that check in up that way, since VIV runs that thing. And towards the middle to the end of the net, everybody disappears. The low power stations and check-ins from up there, they just become a whisper in the wind. And then it really is tough there. So all right, but that's good. I'm glad they get a good turnout and everything works good. I used to be one of the first people in that net, really. Me and that fellow in Long Island, I forget his call now, it's been so many years, and K2FW, who's only lives about 10 miles from me, we kind of named it, you know, and so, I mean, this is going back over 15 years ago, but then I guess VIV took it over, and, you know, as net control, and it just went on from there, so very good. Anyway, what rig are you on, Steve? I'm on my Flex radio. I think the last time we talked, I guess I was on this rig, perhaps. I've only had it a couple of months. I have the Flex 8600, the Power Genius amplifier, and the Tuner Genius automatic tuner, and the Antenna Genius, all these geniuses for the antenna switching, and except there's a moron at the microphone. That's it's not an operator genius. K1GMM W2SDR.
K2XAM.
There he is. Good morning, Kevin. I'll put it over to you. Your audio is always strong, Frank, and that really helps. Uh, but you're always strong in here. So you're easily 20 over. I wasn't watching, but I can tell just by hearing it because I get everything clamped down and it's full quiet. Um, you got the big dog, and that's funny, dude, because I'm the same way. If you saw the mistakes I make sometimes, the Power Genius, that's why you need that stuff. Well, I'll say that's why I need that stuff, because I'm freaking nuts. Some of the stuff I do is it's just ridiculous. The rig here is, I run 2 rigs. One is the Anon G2, which I'm not on this morning. I'm on the Sun. It's a Sun radio by Expert, an SDR2 DX, which I've been playing with on AM, and she's a little finicky. I got to be very careful with this rig because I get a lot of downward. It's very easy to get a downward carrier, a reduction in carrier under modulation. So there's a very fine line threshold, getting my AGC just right and everything else. So ACOM 2000 alpha, pushing, I probably should bring it up a little bit. Where am I at? About, okay, there's a 200 watt carrier. So I was about 180 watts before. The antenna is a full wave delta, monoband delta loop. So that's what's going on here. Audio chain doesn't really matter, but I use a whole virtual. Everything's all virtual that I do. There's nothing analog, except for the microphone hitting the sound card, and that's about it. Kind of a techno freak, Frank, which leads to my tremendous levels of frustration and gray hair and falling out in clumps. K2XAM, K1GMM, good morning.
All right, K1GMM, W2SDR. Good morning to both of you. It's K2XAM. Caught me out in the kitchen trying to get some oatmeal, trying to find something warm. I just took a hot shower just to try to warm up. I don't like these cold mornings. I think it's about 21 here. And we got no more new snow, at least after it stopped yesterday, so that's a good thing. I see wherever my kids shoveled, things are still shoveled off.
Hey, Jay, good morning.
Anyways, good morning.
And Happy New Year to you, brother.
Still trying to get my my 2 brain cells together that are sort of awake and turn it over to Frank. I think it's W2SDR, K2XAM in the group.
Yeah, I'm going to just say 73. I'm out of here, but good morning, Kevin, and have a good day. Maybe I'll catch you tomorrow morning. AJ1G.
Good morning. Didn't realize you were here. Sorry about that. 7-3, enjoy the net.
Yeah, 7-3, Chris, up top. We'll catch you later. Have fun.
Yeah, and that guy that Frank was talking about is Dick Winslow. I'm trying to think of his call now, but he was on staff there at WOR. I think he did news announcing, and he was often
we're just
Gene
around,
Shepard's board operator during the Gene Shepard show. Mr. Winslow, he's got an excellent, very
Finally
aristocratic sounding voice for radio.
Catch Frank, W2SDR.
Yeah, okay, that's who he was. Okay. I had forgot. All right, Chris. Well, see you later there. I don't think that net started until like 8 o'clock or so, but I guess you got to get in line with a pre-net and all the rest of that net business. Okay, Kevin, beautiful signal down this way. Really sound really good this morning. And I just did a quick firmware update that they came through on this Flex amp, new software, so I put that in while I was listening here. That went pretty easy this morning. I didn't read the release notes yet, so I don't know what's included with that. And I was distracted. I really apologize, Steve, because I didn't get what kind of rig you have, because I was... I don't multitask very well at this age, and if I'm concentrating on my amplifier not blowing up, I miss what I ask people, but I'm total concentration now.
Thanks, Jay.
So there you go.
Nothing but a basement butcher here, dude.
I'm
Big
in
old
my low
hack.
20s here too. According to my weather station here, 23 degrees. I got a weather station a couple weeks before Christmas and put it up. It's made by a company called Tempest. And so I'm on Weather Underground and all the rest of this stuff now. You know, weather is real. It's an in thing to talk about now on amateur radio. The thing works great too. I can bring it up on my phone. I mean, it's like, you know, it goes crazy with Wi-Fi and all the rest of it. It works great. No moving parts. It's newest type of technology there. So I'm having fun with that. So anybody want to know my barometric pressure, I'd be glad to tell them. Yeah. All right. That goes over to Kevin. Or no, it goes over to Steve. K1GMM, and run that radio past me one more time. W2SDR.
WA1HLR.
Hey, good morning, Tim. Yeah, I give out too much information, Frank. Nobody freaking cares. So the radio, the radio is an SDR radio, made by Expert, and I could tell you more, but it's really not important. The only other thing, audio chain, is all virtual, and had a quick comment of the firmware stuff, because I run a lot of modern stuff here, and I've always been very leery of firmware updates, and I'm wondering if you've ever had a firmware update when it comes back around to you where it just completely foobarred the entire system. I'm always very hesitant to pull the trigger, and most of I think you're familiar with Anons, aren't you? Did you have an Anon at one point? I just don't update these things. I'm not on the Anon this morning, but I'm just curious if once I get, especially that radio, how quirky it is, and the most complicated system on the face of the earth, hands down. Once I get that freaking thing running, dude, I don't mess with it. I've had that since September. Oh, you got to upgrade to this and that, and I just don't do it, dude. Because it took me 2 years to get the 200D running the way I really knew it could run. And it was rock solid grenade proof. And then I sold it. So I'm very, very cautious about updating firmware and changing software and blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying. You can comment on that. Go ahead, Tim. Good morning. And over to Kevin, over to K2XAM, W1HLR, K1GMM.
Okay, Steve, hang on. I got to tune up. The transmitter's still set up on 85. I heard Paul in there, too. No. That's more like it, along with the acoustic feedback. Well, yeah, I was up, I went to bed earlier than usual and got up, probably about close to 6 o'clock. Lay in bed, finally got my ass out of bed and, I think maybe I'll play a little bit of radio. And the upper end of the window is jam-packed with signals. There's people on 90, there's people on 85, there's people on 80, and then there's the gol darn slop buckets that are jammed in there, and I kept circling around trying to find a clear frequency, and so I started playing around with the Collins 75S3 receiver, and started tuning around, and that obviously is with a 6 kilohertz mechanical filter definitely works better, but still, it's just ridiculously crowded. So I wonder what's going down on 05. So I tuned down with the Collins, like, geez, there's Frank, and There's no interference and no garbage, because I kind of thought about getting on 05. Didn't hear anything, so, what the hell, grab the 3705 crap, still put it in the Blue Magoo and tweak the input and broke in, so I don't have to do any hardware or firmware or software updates in this station. Not a problem. All right, go ahead there, Kevin. How are you doing? And I have yet to hear you. K2XAM from WA1HLR. All right, good morning there, Tim. Heard Paul in there, too. So I'll throw it over to him when I'm done here. Good morning to Tim, and hope you're doing well, and Marcy's doing well, and just everything is well, just in general. Not much going on here. It's chilly. The TV screen's saying it's 25, but the phone is saying it's 21. I don't know what my actual electronic outdoor thermometer is going to tell me if I go look at it. I don't think it ever matches the TV or the phone. It's in the 20s here. It's too freaking cold. I don't like it. I prefer it to be at least as a minimum 10 degrees warmer. We did not get any new snow from last night until this morning, so that's a good thing. And we ended up getting minimal lake effect snow. And I don't even know how much that was, maybe 4 to 6 inches, something like that, on Friday afternoon till Saturday, probably Saturday morning. Not a lot going on here. No firmware, just lots of wires strung through the living room. One of these days I'm probably going to trip and fall, and that won't end up being good. Well, I have tripped and fallen in the past. I just worry about tripping and falling into the corner of one of the metal racks or something like that that's here. That could end up bad. I should probably wear a motorcycle crash helmet when I'm in here in the living room, I think, just to be on the safe side. Paul, good morning to you. You probably want to set aside, I was told, I haven't confirmed yet, March 8th is the solar building in Ballston Spa for that Winterfest, Hamfest type of thing. So March 8th was the rumor. I've not had any confirmation. I did email one of the guys and haven't heard back. So Paul, over to you. KC2CKO. K2XAM in the group. Oh, and then I think you turn it to Frank.
Okay, Jake, let me do some adjustments here. K2XAM and the group KC2CKO back. Kind of dipped the fine here a little bit. Well, thank you for that heads up. I'm definitely going to have to mark that on my calendar. And I have a friend who's interested in amateur radio. Well, may have to tell him too if they still have the exam session there. He could start studying now and probably be ready for it. So he was a radio operator in Vietnam, so he's always been kind of interested in it. So, and he actually contacted me, I think a week ago, said he'd love to come over to see the shack and give him a tour of how everything works here. So, 24.4 degrees here. I've got an old cheapo weather station that actually been working fairly well. I had to replace the batteries up on the roof once. So far, so good. But if I get another one, I'd like to get one that's computer interfaceable and stuff. Weather underground and that's solar powered. No battery in the outside unit. I'd like that. So, but I only paid like $100 for the one I had. So, and I didn't spend like a few more shekels. I could have done a little bit better upgrade. So, that's about it. I'm not going to stay here long. This is going to be my one and only transmission. I have to
go upstairs and get ready for the morning meeting here, which is now at 10 o'clock. The two congregations joined together. We had an east and west congregation at Saratoga Springs, where we joined together, and so we've had like 175 people. And the meetings now are going to be at 10 o'clock. Not ours was at 1 o'clock. So a big change, and a lot new friends or old friends getting together. And at that, everybody have a great day. And my son is going to bring over I think like a 15 or 20 pound ham, and he's going to make a ham dinner for everybody at my house. So he invited all the friends. So much for that. Everybody have a great day, and I'll catch you on. I'll be on here early Monday morning, but I've got to take a trip down to Cairo, New York to inspect a new retail store going up. Do some structural steel inspection on that for a quick trip down there. So I'll have a quick high and by then also. 73 for now. KC2 CKO, over and out.
All right, I guess it goes to me. Okay there, 7-3, 1 and out there, Paul. KC2 CKO, W2SDR, my business. Okay, see you later. Now let me let the other guy say goodbye to you there. Real quick, I'll stick in here for another round, but I'll get Timmy in there. I was turning it to, I guess, Steve. So, well, I'm going to make a transmission here, I guess. I'm out of coffee. I'll have to run upstairs, but I'll go on remote to do that with the Flex. And I use the remoting capability a lot with this new radio within my house, so because I have a separate operating position upstairs. I call it Studio B. I get on there in the evenings. Works good. You really can't tell the difference. And then I get on my phone and walk around the house to do things, and without missing a beat. I've used it driving around in the truck with port forwarding and stuff, and it works flawlessly. Radio works great. And the comment on your stuff, Steve, with the Anon, yeah, I had a couple of Anons over the years. It's a very flighty, bug-filled firmware for the most part. It's very challenging with that radio, different things, because it relies so much on the computer. The Flex radio and the advent of Smart SDR offloads a lot of that stuff in the radio box now. So just about any computer will operate the radio, which is really good in my opinion. It takes because people got all kinds of stuff on their PCs, and it creates a lot of issues. But this is my second Flex. I had a Flex way back, the SDR 1000, I guess 15 years ago now, maybe 10, 15 years ago. And of course, they've come a long way since then. But I had fun with the Anon. It was a nice radio, but it was time to move on and get something different. So, K1GMM in the group, W2SDR. Good morning to you, there, Tim. That whistling, though, man, that is like an electric drill in the side of my head, that feedback business. So, you got to do something about that. K1GMM, W2SDR in the group.
Yeah, K1GMM, and hi and bye to Paul. Have a great day if you're still listening. And W2SDR, K1GMM. Yeah, you kind of, the Anons, see, I don't drink anybody's Kool-Aid, and I don't think you do either. I'm not sure. And not that that's a bad thing. Everybody's into what they're into, right? And they all have their preferences. If they didn't, we'd all be clones, and how interesting would the hobby be, really, right? But the one thing, the only thing I can say about the Anons are, to echo what you said, the G2 I have here, as a standalone radio, it works awesome. I don't touch it. It is flawless. I have no issues with that running standalone. Just runs off a little Raspberry Pi in the computer, and whoever wrote that software to run on that operating system is a freaking genius, because that thing is literally grenade proof. It's not your typical Anon. So they hit a home run on that deal. But would I pay that kind of money for that radio? New? Not a chance in hell. It's still an Anon. Has all kinds of issues with the audio inputs, and it's a train wreck from a input standpoint. And there's a ton of them out there that have the same issues, right? So, enough said on that. But from the computer standpoint, good heavens. And, you know, I run and you're right, I run a fairly robust computer here, and you really do need to run that, because I have a lot of crap running, man. Virtual audio systems running on the RX side, TX side. I'm pushing a live Shack feed right now, which absolutely crushes the computer. And, but I'm not on that radio, and it runs perfectly fine. But, you know, you could run it on an old piece of crap and get away with it, like an old laptop, but yeah, probably not the best thing. So yeah, and that's what I've heard about the Flexes. I'm curious if that, I think you said 8600, that's a flagship, right? That has 2 independent receivers, I believe. Maybe you can comment on that one. Boy, there's a lot here. Let me keep this short. I'm at 2 minutes. Push it over to Tim. WA1HLR, K1GMM. On the old stuff and the good stuff.
Hang on. Well, being that I don't have to run the power, this is a non-squeal transmitter. You hear me on this thing, Frank?
You're 30 over up here.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, I'm hearing him. This thing is loaded too heavily. I was up in the window with this setup. Exciter is exciting, and it's making RF, and that's all that matters. Yeah, Frank, I'm assuming that you're hearing me. Big assumption, you know, when you assume, you make, in many cases, you make an ass out of you and me. Yeah, I gotta get my bean rolling here. Yeah, the transmitter I was on is the Blue Magoo, about 300 watts out. I gotta get bigger transmitters going, but I got so much else going on that just keeping what I have going, I'm happy with that for now. So, problem with that other transmitter is
Blech. Puke. Makes me want to puke.
Damn it.
This guy is something else, man. Oh my God. He burps, farts, pukes into the microphone while he's keyed up. I mean, really?
I took the DC
He's
off the
ultimate
secondary of the
buzzard,
mod
man.
transformer many years ago, and initially it was get as much power as you can out of a small package. For the technology back better than 50 years ago, so I used an ART-13 mod transformer, which is pretty small, and years later it just never worked quite right, and that is because, you know, when I upgraded to a pair of 572Bs and a 4400, and was running 500 watt, close to 500 out. Oh, it worked, but one modulator too would get red in the face and the other one didn't. And I swapped the tubes around, and it was the socket position rather than the tube that would get red, where the tube would get red in the face. So after experimentation on and off, I discovered that when I used the modulator as a separate unit to modulate a much smaller, lower power transmitter, it didn't have an issue. I said, Don Breaks Over Marblehead, the mod transformer is saturating, and I found the R13 mod transformer is good for no more than 150 mils instead of close to 300. So there was enough room on the RF unit's chassis to mount up a 20 Henry 300 mil reactor that had a good voltage rating to it, and bolted that in there, made a cutout for it and all that, and that fixed the problem. But back then I was not using any broadcast audio processing or anything like that. It was just get up on the microphonium. So fast forward to 50 years later, I use broadcast audio processing whenever practical to keep the levels up there and not over-modulate, because it was easy to do. You were either under-modulated or almost just right, or over-modulating and hitting it too hard. So the whole concept of a microphonium plugged into the transmitter is passé. But the thing is, with a lot of transmitters, modulation transformer designed to handle unbalanced DC will have talkback. The R13 mod transformers are known for squealing and talking back. A lot of them are. So if you have a lot of gain in the system, the microphonium picks it up, and then things just go bonkers. So the transmitter, the Blue Magoo, has been through a few twists and turns, and now I've got a BC610 mod transformer in there, which should be good for 250 mils or something like that, and I can bypass the mod reactor just to see what that does. I know it'll probably get rid of it, but I'm too damn busy. It's suck it up. The squealing will clean the wax out of your ears, and that's how I look at it. I become a hard ass. Kevin, good to hear you in there, and yeah, I hear you on the cold. I'm not a fan of it. It's probably about the same. I looked out there earlier, and it was like one thermometer says about 10 degrees, and the other says about 17 degrees, so you split the difference. They're two thermometers, these cheap-ass made-in-China things with a U.S. brand label on it. So, that's that. And I have one of those weather stations. I got it from a buddy of mine, and, it'll connect through Wi-Fi and all that kind of thing. And it's like, well, in order to get an accurate reading, you're going to want to put the thing up, up fairly high. Oh, well, you have to change the battery out every year or so. It's like, oh, Christ, another freaking battery. So sick of having to use batteries, because they always wind down and leak and lose effectiveness. So, Frank, you were describing things like, maybe if I put the thing up, I'm going to have a small solar panel, and that'll buffer the battery, or have some kind of a little mini lithium-ion battery in a enclosure that if it catches fire, it doesn't burn things up. So there you go, K2XAM. How are we doing with 100 watts now from WA1HLR? Well, I'm still hearing you on the ICOM 7300, and you're probably running 5 to 10 over typically. So band conditions must not be half bad this morning. Yep, I know what you mean with things with batteries in them. I just, this remote outdoor thermometer device that I have, I forgot to put new batteries in it in the fall. So at some point or another this winter, it ain't going to work anymore. And I don't know if I'll end up traipsing through the snow to go and replace it when it happens. I pretty much just look at the cell phone and look at its guess, and then look at the TV screen and look at the guess at the Sorry Excuse Airport, and such like that. Not a whole lot else going on here. I might stay in here for one more. I had kind of wanted to get out of here about 7:30 to go down to the Walmart store before it gets too crowded, and also Wegelman's supermarket to look for some semi-real produce, not the plastic stuff that they sell at the Walmart store. Let's see. I think I was turning it to Paul, but I sort of understood, and I turned the volume down halfway through Paul's transmission because I wanted to pay attention to the weather forecast. I'm gathering that he signed, so I think I turn it over to Frank. So 7-3 to Paul if you're still listening. And Frank, go ahead and take it. W2SDR, K2XAM. In here for one more.
Okay, K2XAM in group, W2SDR, and you got that right. Okay. You have a beautiful signal down this way. Tim, your signal, I copied you fine before. I was on my way to get another cup of coffee, and so I couldn't get to the microphone in time, but until I turned my phone on remote, and then, but I copy you fine. You're fine. There's been a slop bucketer on conversation on 3810 the whole time here. So I just pulled my passband over. I think those guys are down south. You probably can't even hear them up there for the most part. Yeah, I should have had a pen here. You asked me a question. The question, Steve, about the Anon. I like the Anon. I mean, it was a nice transceiver. It was challenging in a number of ways. But the firmware was a little buggy, but it's all like volunteers doing that stuff. The Flex Radio, it's like a real company. They're so responsive. Like if you have an issue at night or on a weekend, somebody gets back to you via email and all. I mean, it's really kind of a first-class operation, in my opinion. But of course, we're ham radio operators. Ham radio operators are a pain in the ass. I mean, some of the nasty comments on Facebook, on the Flex Radio page and all. I mean, there's some really unreasonable people out there. I mean, I don't know what they expect of different things, but man, they're just chronic complainers. And I mean, really, these folks are trying to do the best they can. I mean, I give people credit, for trying and doing the best job that they can do. But man, some of the comments are across the board, not just about Flex, about radios and stuff like that in general. It just gets pretty nasty, to be honest with you. Well, I mean, you hear some of the conversations on ham radio on groups that people I used to know that I just can't talk to them anymore. I mean, it's just, it's like the teacher out of the room syndrome, since we don't have a highly effective FCC for rules, and now people do and use the language for however they want. And, it used to be a welcoming hobby, but boy, some of the QSOs I hear that's anything but welcoming. And it's a real shame. I mean, I guess I'm old school, but I just, it's so obvious that some of the sophomoric behavior that I hear on the bands today would astound hams of years ago. That's for doggone sure. So over she comes there, Steve, and I hope my signal's still holding up there in your guys' neck of the woods. So this is W2SDR over to K1GMM in the group.
Okay, Frank, K1GMM. No, you are spot on. I could name the names. I know who you're talking. Well, I know probably a few of them who you're talking about. It's just so unfortunate. So irrational. What drives me crazy is you have what's called storm centers. My wife has always told me, she says, Steve, don't be a storm center. And it's very tempting for me because I'm a crisis-driven person, right? I am. I admit it. I function best under crisis. So if everything's calm and quiet, I'll tend to throw a little nitromethane on something just to get something going. I pretty much put the kibosh to that, but I just had a situation where I did a comprehensive comparison between two radios. They were completely objective. I was very clear. I said, I'm not trying to sell either one of these. This is just a comparison. And I back it up with facts, right? And with demonstrations. And yes, they are equal. I'm very, very careful about that. You know what I mean? I don't want to run one radio with noise reduction on and the other one with the noise reduction off, trying to trick people and blah, blah, blah. Take it for what it's worth. This is real. You can believe it or choose not to believe it. That's your choice. But I don't care what your opinions are. And these are not my opinions. I'm just demonstrating, And it's amazing how triggered people get because they're so high on the Kool-Aid. There is no perfect radio out there. There isn't. They all have weird little things. Some people prefer a particular radio for the receive quality, which is why I gravitate to the radio I'm on. And speaking of receive, did you see that? They're in there every morning, Frank. Some jackhat up on 3710, that crew, was transmitting 4K wide right into our bandpass. And I saw that. That was a first. I have never seen that because they're there every morning. Kevin and I talk about it. So what I did was I put in 2 notch filters and I run a AI-driven noise reduction system. Which runs on standalone software on all of my radios, and it completely wipes them out. I can't even freaking hear them. Doesn't matter how strong they are. It views it. You know how you get the squeakiness? You'll get that squeak. Well, it'll wipe them out 100%. They're gone. I don't even hear them. Freaking love this thing, man. I really do. I can see it happening, but I don't hear it because it targets. It's like if people, I was telling Kevin yesterday, if you get somebody's audio that is really, really bad, it'll actually target that as noise and it'll completely shut it down. You've heard, and AM seems to be plagued with that. I've heard a lot of, I can't even listen to it, Frank. I go up on 885 and up in there and I'm like, oh my God, I have to just shut it down. See, I'm at 3 minutes, 22 seconds. You got me. See, I get on these, see what I mean? I get on, but it's just me. It's just me. I ain't preaching. It's just the way I am, dude. Take it or leave it. I don't apologize for it, but I acknowledge it can be inflammatory sometimes. Okay. There was something else I was going to comment on, and dadgummit. Really quick, I'm going to drop the key here. Yeah, the 8600, does it have 2 independent receivers, Frank? Over?
Yes, it has 2 separate. The whole system that I have has got 2 separate receivers. And the amplifier has 2 separate inputs, and the tuner. I bought everything. It's all that SO2R stuff, over.
Yes, gotcha. Yeah, what a killer setup. That's a dream setup right there. All right, go ahead, Tim. I'm going to take a standby here. And by the way, Frank, if you're bored, and I promise to keep the overs shorter, if you're bored, I'm usually in here by 4 a.m. I'm floating around in here 4 to up until now. But I usually just park the receiver on 3705 and listen. So if you're ever bored, you're looking for a place to go and you can't deal with something, you'll usually find me down here. I'll yak with you for a little bit, or if I drive you crazy, don't. All right. WA1HLR, K1GMM, turning into a buzzard. I'll be back in a little bit. If Kevin, if you're still around, and if not, 7-3 to you.
Kevin, go ahead.
Oh, I thought he was turning it to Tim. Okay. Anyway, yeah, 7-3 there, Steve. I probably won't be here. I think I'm going to make this one my final, just because I want to get to the grocery store, to both places here before the crowds get here, because I don't do well in large crowds, and usually by about 8:30, 9 o'clock, it gets a little too large of a crowd for me. I just made my Christmas list of all the stuff I need to remember to get, and I'm sure there's something I forgot to put on it, and I'm sure I'll end up buying a whole bunch of more stuff.
I am going to run upstairs, you guys. I'm going to leave this on, and I'll be back down. I don't know. I'm not going to save this. This is just a live Shack feed.
And
give people something to do, I guess.
That group, there is a group on 3710 that they've been there for a couple of years. We don't hear them over the summer due to the daylight, but in the winter they become very obvious that they're there. And I usually just bring in the skirt on the one side on the ICOM and or the WebSDR to get them out of there. But Steve, I'm very interested in that software, and picking up a dongle and so forth for an SDR receiver. So we'll talk about that via email at some point or another, because that thing was just cool, how that ended up taking away the static crashes a few nights ago. And nobody knows what we're talking about. So we were on actually on New Year's Eve, and the static crashes were horrendous. And Steve sent me a recording of what he heard through his setup, and there was not a static crash there, and it was like I was in the room with him, no noise, and so I need to look at maybe getting a similar setup, because I'm in kind of a noisy location here with the ICOM 7300, and a lot of times I rely on a WebSDR, but if that software can make that drastic of a improvement, that could be a good thing. Anyway, so I'll say 7-3 here,
hey,
and
Paul,
turn it up
morning.
to Tim. And good hearing everybody in here this morning. Everybody
GAR,
stay
good
warm
morning.
and enjoy the day. Let's see, WA1HLR, K2XAM signing and disappearing.
All right. When you mention this, I have just a brief
Be back in a little bit, you guys. I don't know if
a couple of questions. What device, was it a standalone or is it software, and which Chuck are you referring to?
Steve, that was Steve. K1GMM has some device, and I don't know if it's a standalone or what its whole situation is. You might be able to ask him when he returns. I think he said he was headed upstairs. I don't know. I need to find out more about it. I don't know if it's one of those SDRs that's a USB with the antenna connection that you just plug into a laptop and then add to it another program. I don't know what the details are. Sorry. Hopefully we both find out. WA1HLR, K2XAM.
Yeah, all right, Kevin. It's Steve. That's right. I was wondering if that was Steve QAX, because I don't think he has anything like that. Bear GCR is always going on and on and on about the malachite. Eventually, I'd be very curious in doing something like that I could use as an adjunct to my equipment here. Anyway, I'll see you later there, Kevin. I'll be standing by. I had to step away because I
had to, I was just jonesing for some bean. So in past days, I'd just have the remote, or shall I say the kitchen sink side speaker plugged in. But with my wife trying to sleep and just people's voices and noise and crap going down the hallway is not a good thing. So, in all due respect, I don't put it on unless I'm the only one here. Either that or there's something interesting going on amateur radio or whatnot that she's into listening to. Like sometimes the Lonely Logs net, but either that or a good conversation that is of a non-technical nature. Anyway, so much for that. So who all is left?
I think maybe I'm the only one left, Tim, and I'm not going to hang in here. I'm probably going to sign. Let me just check if Steve, are you still there?
I think he stepped out for a bit. Man, your signal's really rolling in. And I'm not running a huge amount of power, and I'm not using my big antenna system, which is a bad match down here.
Yeah, well, you're coming through great. Well, that static thing, that sounds like a whole nother receiver if it's on a USB dongle or something like that. I'm very fortunate here, guys, that I have an extremely low noise level. And being, I'm more south than you guys, but I don't get a lot of static crashes and all like those guys down south and all the rest of it. So, I got sort of plenty of land here for beverage antennas and everything. I just don't have any use for them. The Flex radio has a noise reduction circuit in it. Doesn't work well on AM. Works very well on sideband. The Anon had a little bit better noise reduction, but it didn't work on AM either. But what I do, if the static is really bothering me, I narrow up my receiver, even down to 5 or 6 kilohertz audio bandwidth, and it takes a lot of that racket out. To run 10, 12 kilohertz audio band, receive filters when it's high thunderstorm static and stuff, to me, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's too noisy for that type of hi-fi receive setup. So now the fella that was running 4 kilohertz wide, I don't understand that. Well, I don't think they know what they're doing. They don't have common sense that, if they only have 3 kilohertz of room, they can't transmit at 4 kilohertz. That's like if the street, Tim, is 8 feet wide and your vehicle is 10 feet wide, you're not going to fit in that street. And, they just have to narrow up, and start out narrow on sideband if it's a real crowded time of day, like when everybody gets on in the morning and this, that, or around dinner hour. You just can't be like that. That's just plain good etiquette, good amateur practice, as they call it. But, hey, what are you going to do? It's only a hobby. We're amateurs. We're not professionals, right? So, well, thanks for the signal report, Tim. I'm going to sign out, go up and get some breakfast, move around here a little bit. So we'll catch you later. Happy New Year. And anybody else still listening there? And if you're still listening, Steve, I'm around early in the morning. I'll look for you down here. I don't usually hear people down here at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, but I'll give it a shot, and we'll see what happens. So everybody have a great Sunday, and we'll see you all later. W2SDR, 7-3 all around.
All right, Frank, very good. Yeah, typically, when I'm up and around my my schedule, I don't really have a schedule. I tend to fall into these grooves of trying to fit 3 or 4 hours of sleep in here and there. And the way I look back at my own personal history, I've always been that way. I'll typically get on 3885, crap still controlled, and nobody's using it. I run into Glenn SNG, Charlie XZW. You know, when the wind's blowing the right way, I can hear him fairly well now because of conditions. And maybe a couple of others will join us. Maybe Chris AJ1G. But the thing that really pisses me off is the guys down south just fire up on the frequency, whether we're there or not. I had a long talk with Kevin WB0JZG up on 10 meters. He says, yeah, you know, we're in there. We don't have big signals, but we're there, and it becomes a heterodyne city. So to me, it's just rude to expect that a group of guys that are previously on frequency conversating, and then here you come along and you just ignore and just dump right on top of us, well underneath us, making the producing the heterodyne symphony orchestra. So, and I go away pissed off. You know, if I'm on and I'm just conversating and the garbage starts up, I'll run the amount of power, as much power as I can run, and an antenna system that hopefully will have a big enough signal that will dissuade them from operating, or just make it painful enough that they will have to move. They could move down to 80, they could move up to 90, but why 85? You know? Either that or attempt to break into the conversation and ask us, you know, if we, you know, would mind allowing them to set up. That's usually how it used to be done, but it doesn't seem to be that way. So I thought often coming down here, and sometimes I have, and bellowed out CQs till I'm blue in the face. Nobody shows up. So that's at like 5:30, 6 o'clock, between 6 and 7. And usually after 8, 9 o'clock is when a lot of the propagation goes away. Well, I don't have a real noise issue here. Sometimes there are line noises and garbage that will just suddenly be there. And then like that belch, it comes and goes and it's gone. So generally, I can hit the noise floor most of the time. Depends on which antenna I'm using. If I'm using the wire array, there's, you know, other tenants on the hill, and one in particular is my internet service provider. Some of his stuff, probably switching power supply, is producing garbage, and he's well aware of that. And when the weather warms up and all that, then we'll work on it. And use, as he calls them, linear power supplies instead of the switching supplies for his Part 15 internet system. He's got about 50 customers all around the area, you know, that use either 2.4 gigs, such as, that's how I get my internet. It's reasonable throughput rate and allows me to do a lot of things, and I'm not asking any more out of it. And then the 900 megahertz system, much greater distance, but without the bandwidth. Anyway, good talking with you, Frank, and we'll catch up later, and maybe when I'm up in the mornings, earlier mornings, I know when you get in there, you experience the same mess. May come down here instead. W2SDR, have a great day. And hopefully have a happy new year. I don't know if it's going to be so happy the way things are going. See you later. This is WA1HLR. Yeah. Henry 1-2, testicling, count them 1-2. This is WA1HLR. WA1HLR. Henry LR is testicling and listening around. CQ calling CQ, CQ80, CQ80, CQ80 metros. Yeah. Yay, 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 yay. CQ80, CQ80, CQ80. Calling CQ from WA1H, Yell R. WA1H, horrendous, Aloysius, and R for rotundus. WA1H and Yell R calling CQ. CQ80, CQ80, calling CQ80 metros. CQ from WA1H, Yell R. WA1H, horrendous, Aloysius, and R for rotundus. WA1H and Yell R, Henry Yell R, calling CQ and listening. CQ calling CQ, CQ80, CQ80. CQ80, CQ80, calling CQ80 metros. CQ from WA1H, Yell R. WA1H, horrendous, Aloysius, and R for rotundus. WA1H and Yell R, Henry Yell R, calling CQ and listening. CQ calling CQ, CQ80, CQ80, CQ80. CQ from WA1H, Yell R. WA1H and Yell R, Henry Yell R, calling CQ and listening.
WA1HLR, this is AA10.
Yes, Clint, I can hear you quite well. AA10 from WA1H, LR.
Doing well. How about yourself? I know you've been through a number of health issues. How you doing? So you're basically just doing your thing without having to deal with having to go to work.
Yeah, and I deal with no boss. I'll be on time. Every day is Saturday. I belong to the 3940 early birds net in the morning, and one of the guys on there, I was telling him I was retired, because most of those guys are retirees, and he says to me, every day is Saturday.
Yep. Well, I went into semi-retirement when I hit 50.
Yeah, I kind of did that too, and then I went back to work, and then I drove a bus for senior citizens for about 2 or 3 years. That was about 8 years ago, and then a headhunter called me, asked me if I go to work for a company in Sanford, Maine. on a tech support line for biological safety cabinets. Do you even know what those are?
Well, cabinets for storing a biohazard, right?
Well, not exactly. I guess there might be one type like that. These are these isolation cabinets that people work in front of. They have a glass front. They have gloves that you put your hands into, and you can work on some pretty hazardous, nasty things. Well, those things have HEPA filters in them and a bunch of electronics. And when they asked me if I'd go down and talk to them, and because they saw my electronics background and all that, so I said, what do they do there? They said, well, they manufacture biological safety cabinets. I said, biological what? So anyway, they have a school there. They put me through the school, and now I know how to fix them. But I worked 8 years there. Just